Welcome to my Bake Escape. It is officially the holiday season, and to kick it off, I decided to make apple pie cinnamon rolls. So for this recipe, you will need all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, unsalted butter, milk, salt, vanilla extract, yeast, and eggs. To get started, the first step is to warm the milk to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the milk has reached that temperature, the next step is to combine about a teaspoon of granulated sugar with the active dry yeast. Give it a mix, set it aside for 10 minutes, and allow the yeast to bloom. Once the yeast is ready, move on to combining the dry ingredients. Start by adding the granulated sugar to the all-purpose flour, followed by the salt, and then the next step is to blend the butter into the flour. You can use your fingers to find the larger clumps and just mix them into the flour. Next, add the eggs, vanilla extract, and milk yeast mixture. Just mix until they start to come together in the bowl. Once it reaches this consistency, the next step is to pour it out over a lightly floured work surface and begin to knead the dough by hand. You can use a stand mixer with a hook attachment to make the dough, or if you have a bread maker with a dough setting, you can make this dough in that as well. However, when I make my videos, I like to try to make all of the recipes by hand because many people watch this and they may not have access to a specific tool that I use. So I like to show that anybody can make these recipes without having to use a stand mixer or food processor. When making this recipe by hand, it will take probably about 5 to 7 minutes of kneading the dough until it reaches the right consistency. When you first start, it will stick to the board a lot, so I tend to add a little bit of flour in between kneading, and about the 3 to 4 minute mark, the dough doesn't stick to the board anymore. So this is progress. Continue kneading until when you insert your finger or thumb, the dent bounces back pretty quickly. So as you can see here, it bounced back pretty quickly. The next step is to butter or grease the bowl you're going to allow the dough to rise in. Go ahead and place the dough in the bowl and roll it around a little bit. I add a little bit more butter to the outside of the dough just to ensure that it doesn't dry out in the proofing process. Then you're going to cover the bowl with plastic wrap and place in a warm, draft-free area. I like to put it in my oven. I have a proof setting on my oven, so I'm trying this out for the first time. I set the oven to proof and place the bowl in the oven and let it go for 60 minutes. While the dough proofs, it's time to move on to making the apple filling. For this, you will need Granny Smith apples, brown sugar, granulated sugar, salt, cinnamon, unsalted butter, and vanilla extract. First step is to peel and core all of the apples, and then I like to chop the apples roughly into a medium size, not too small, not too large. And they don't all have to be the same size, but I try to make them roughly around the same size so they cook as evenly. Now that all the apples are chopped up, it's time to brown the butter. So once the butter is browned, I go ahead and add all of the chopped apples. I let this cook for about 2 to 3 minutes, just until they start to soften. Next step is to add the cinnamon, salt, granulated sugar, brown sugar, and vanilla extract. Give it a quick mix and let it simmer for about another 3 minutes. I only cook the apples for about 7 to 8 minutes total. It is very important to strain the apples of all the extra liquid, but make sure to save that liquid because we're going to use it later on in this recipe. Transfer the strained apples to another bowl. Reserve that delicious butter apple goodness. Now it's time to assemble the cinnamon rolls. For this, you'll need some brown sugar, cinnamon, unsalted butter, salt, and the apple filling. As you can see, the dough has risen beautifully. It's doubled in size. Next step is to roll it out on a lightly floured surface. I'm going to use my hands to press the dough out slightly, and then use a rolling pin to continue rolling it out to a large rectangle. Next, spread butter all over the surface of the dough. Combine the brown sugar with the cinnamon and salt, give it a quick mix, and spread evenly over the dough. Then you're going to add the apples and spread again evenly all over the dough. And then roll the dough into a log, starting at the edge and as tightly as possible, roll into a nice even log. Once you get to the end, you want to pinch the edge of the dough onto the log to seal it. And then I like to kind of roll it around a little bit, smash it here and there to make it as even as possible. I'm going to cut this into 8 parts. I start by cutting it down the middle and then cutting each section in half again for a total of 8 cinnamon rolls. Be sure to butter or grease the baking dish. Then place the cinnamon rolls cut side down into the baking dish, giving them a little bit of space in between. They will rise again, and as they bake, they will continue to grow. So you want to make sure you give them enough room. Cover with plastic wrap and allow to proof for a second time for about 45 minutes. When it's time to bake the cinnamon rolls, preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. As you can see, they have puffed up a little bit more in the 45 minutes that they proof. Uncover and place in the oven and allow to bake for 28 to 32 minutes, depending on the size of the cinnamon rolls. While they bake, it's time to make the delicious cream cheese icing. For this icing, you will need vanilla extract, powdered sugar, and cream cheese. Again, you can do this in a mixer or with a hand mixer, but I like to show you how to do it by hand. A trick is to gently massage the cream cheese in the foil to kind of make it a little easier to mix together. And then once it's in the bowl, you're going to need to mix it until it kind of has like a whipped consistency. So this is going to take a little bit of, arm strength, but you got to just mix it until it's creamy and then add the vanilla extract and continue to mix that together. And here's where that reserved apple butter sauce is going to come in hand. So you want to add about 2 teaspoons of this sauce to the cream cheese. Mix that together until it is combined. I had originally planned to add 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, but I personally like cream cheese to just have a subtle sweetness. I really want the tangy, cheesy flavor to come through, so I only added 1 cup and blended this until it was smooth. And there you have it, the cream cheese frosting. The cinnamon rolls have been baking for about 30 minutes. Look how beautiful they turned out. You can see all the delicious apples in between the layers. Oh, these smell amazing. Let the cinnamon rolls cool slightly for about 10 minutes, and then you can start icing. I add a little to each cinnamon roll, spread it around. Oh, it just looks so amazing. It smells delicious. These cinnamon rolls came out delicious. The dough is soft and tender. The apples are perfectly spiced and sweet with a little bit of a crunch. They're not too soft. Oh man, this is a keeper for sure. Please let me know in the comments if you try this recipe. Let me know what you thought. Also, be sure to subscribe, and I have a little bonus tip for you. Don't toss the apple peeling or cores. Throw them in a pot, cover with water, add a couple of cinnamon sticks, and simmer over a medium-low heat, and you will fill your entire home with a delicious apple spice scent. All right, thank you so much for watching, and happy holidays.